Who did that?
I thought you guys did that.
No, we did not.
You didn't do that.
No,
Okay.
no. I know. You're
That's
in
the
this
report.
little
That's the
rabbit hole.
report.
No,
So,
it's a report from a tiny little place that you're living, but it's not true. It has no truth to it. If it were true, don't you think there'd be some criminal justice response to it? Don't you think there'd be some criminal justice response to it? Don't you think there'd be some criminal justice?
Well, after the break, we're going to continue this discussion with Larry Pinckney, who, like Martin Luther King, was also a target of FBI COINTEL, but they didn't get a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our immune support infusion blend. You will be supporting a free press, all the while enjoying a truly great-tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com. The facts are in. The studies are legion. Sodium fluoride and other toxic members of the fluoride family are devastating the health and cognitive ability of the American people. So why are the social engineers adding it to the water? Simple. Dumb down the host population that the parasitic technocracy is feeding on. We may not have been able to get fluoride out of the water supply yet, but we can help to get it out of our bodies. I am extremely excited to announce the exclusive InfoWars Life Fluoride Shield formulation, fusing 6 of the best documented ingredients from around the world to help the body remove not just toxic fluoride residues from the body, but a whole host of toxic substances. Let's take a stand against the globalists by blocking their poisons with Fluoride Shield. I use Fluoride Shield every day. Secure your Fluoride Shield and other pioneering formulations at InfoWarsLife.com today. Let's start cleansing our bodies now and support the Info War at the same time. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Welcome back. Now, as you saw earlier in the program, we talked to Bill Ayers last week. Now, we know why the FBI was following Bill Ayers, because he was bombing buildings, because people were dying from his bombs. But there were other people that were being followed. Dr. Martin Luther King, for example. So we wanted to get Larry Pinckney, who is also a victim of COINTELPRO and of the FBI's political operations. We wanted to talk to him and find out what he learned as a member of the original Black Panthers, how he was fighting against structural racism, but then saw that it was a much larger program, how the government was using it to pit one group against another. Well, welcome, Larry. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you so much, David. It's a pleasure. It's always a delight.
I wanted to ask you about this report that came out yesterday on Bloomberg about Obama saying that his sinking poll ratings are due to the fact that he's black, and somehow I guess people just discovered that he's black. Did you know he was black?
Isn't that amazing? His sinking poll ratings due to him being black? Well, I'll be.
You know, he was elected twice. I guess people didn't notice when they voted for him twice.
Well, I've always said that Mr. Barack Obama was a very effective pimp. And once again, he's showing, and I say pimp in a political sense. He's a political pimp. I'll tell you why his ratings are going down, why they are plummeting, because people are waking up to the sham, the hypocrite, that he actually is. Mm-hmm. It has nothing or very little, if anything, to do with his convenient pigmentation. He's always black when it's time, when he's facing problems. But when he's not facing problems, why, he is, dictator in chief, come on, get real.
Well, Larry, I talked to Bill Ayers. He was in the Austin area this last week. And of course, he was a victim of FBI COINTEL program, as were you, as was Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, we know why the FBI was looking at Bill Ayers, because of his bombing campaign. Why were they investigating Martin Luther King?
Well, because Martin Luther King was not engaged in a bombing campaign.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
And the fact is that Dr. King stood for everyday, ordinary black, white, brown, red, and yellow people. Now, we know, of course, common sense dictates, of course, that Obama and his backers, such as Mr. Ayers, are the antithesis, the very opposite of everything that Dr. King fought and died for, or perhaps a better word is struggled, worked hard for, and ultimately died for, was killed for. So that's my only response to that.
You know, he has his book tour that he's going out. It's called Public Enemy, Confessions of a Dissident. And yet everything that he was doing was pushing the government line. Every time I would talk to him about something, certainly about education, he would say, well, certainly you see the government as a role in this or a role in that. And then when I went to see him the next night, he said, I was thinking, certainly you see a role for the government in doing roads. I mean, this guy is pushing, he calls himself an anarchist, but he pushes himself as pushing the state at every opportunity for every solution. He sees the government as being the solution. And when we confronted him on the issue of the bombings, he said, well, if I had done the bombings, I would be in jail by now. I don't think, you know, he'd confessed the previous night, said that his father, who was on the board of several Fortune 500 companies, some of the biggest companies, General Dynamics, Sears, Zenith, had called up a judge friend of his and gotten his wife out of jail. That didn't happen to you, did it? You had a very different experience. You didn't have daddy call up anybody, get you out of jail free.
You've got to be kidding. Absolutely not. And neither did most everyday, ordinary black, white, brown, red, and yellow people who were struggling and still are struggling. You know, I have a problem with people such as Mr. Ayers who pretend to be something that they're not. They have privilege. Mm-hmm. They have privilege. They use that privilege. Even today, they use that privilege. You know, you can't walk both sides of the road simultaneously. Either you stand with the people, everyday ordinary people, or you don't. And mommy or daddy, rich as they might be, I don't care what their color, rich as they might be, should not be the ones pulling strings if you have political integrity. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about everyday ordinary people coming together and saying, this is what this struggle's about. So that just burns me up, frankly. It just burns me up.
You know, Larry, what really burned me about it was when I started talking to him about education, and he said that people who homeschooled were quote unquote white privilege. They love to use that word, and yet the homeschoolers that I know are people who have given up the wife working. They have taken on financial hardship because they care about that. They want to make sure that they are instilling education in their children. And as Ayers pointed out, he sees education as fundamentally ethical and political. So do I. That's why I don't want the government anywhere near my kids as far as educating them. But he has the audacity to call homeschoolers privileged, and they were talking about that all the time. It's one of their favorite words is privileged, and yet these are the white privileged people that we see. I mean, the hypocrisy of somebody like Bill Ayers calling homeschoolers privileged is just beyond what I can even put up with. I can't even stomach that.
Well, the black and Chicana, black and brown folks that I know who happen to be homeschooling their children, where's that privilege?
Yes.
Excuse me? What is he talking about? He's on another planet. Get real. And the right to homeschooling should be a fundamental human right. And to twist and distort that to say that this is the white privilege, come on. I think my friends who are black and brown would strongly disagree.
And the point of this is all that people need to be able to discern where somebody is coming from. They love to use language like, I'm a dissenter, I'm an anarchist, I'm against white privilege, and yet the opposite is true of all of that. You see that Ayers really represents the system.
Of course he does. Of course, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, you know, and it moves like a duck, looks like a duck. It is a duck. And the fact of the matter is that people such as Mr. Ayers, he's certainly not the only one, they are the ones who are enjoying, quote unquote, white privilege. And you know what? We can even remove the color thing. It's not even about white privilege or only white privilege. It's about privilege across the board. Obama is not white, as he likes to remind us now that his ratings in the poll are falling, okay, or plummeting, I should say. But he has a great deal of privilege, and he uses it not for the benefit of the people, or everyday ordinary people, but for himself and for his corporate buddies. You know, I would say to go ahead. Sorry.
Larry, we're almost out of time. I want to ask you this. Do you think, and I want you to talk about the Obama administration, do you think that perhaps people are judging the Obama administration by the content of the administration instead of the color of the president, and that's why they're seeing his poll ratings plummet? About the drone strikes, about continuing the policies of George Bush, and then instituting all these new things like indefinite detention without trial, without accusation, the NDAA, the drone assassinations?
Of course. Dr. King said that we make our judgment. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said we make our judgments based on the content of a person's character, not the color of his or her skin. And I think that, you know what? That might just be what's happening. Finally, people are getting away from the plantation color game and are beginning to realize that, hey, we need to look at the character or lack thereof. That's why his ratings in the polls are going down, and they should go down.
Yes, it's one of those things, exactly. It's one of those things where they use these labels and they use these techniques, they use racism to pit one group against another, and they try to strum that up. They try to stir up the racism, and that's exactly what I think he was doing yesterday when he came out one day before Martin Luther King and says, they hate me because I'm black.
Oh, you know, that is despicable. That is despicable. I guess his mother was black too, right? Oh, come on. I mean, you know, let's get real. And you're absolutely right. They distort and disfigure, you know, the struggle, all the hardships that everyday ordinary people have gone through and are still going through. That is utterly despicable.
Well, thank you very much, Larry. Thanks for chiming in on this. And we want to talk to you again about what happened when we've got more time, about what they did to you with COINTELPRO and what they let Bill Ayers get away with. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Take good care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for tonight's news. If you'd like to support our operation, please sign up as a subscriber to Prison Planet TV. One subscription will allow you to share that with 10 other people simultaneously. And right now, as a New Year's special, you can get 5 months for free when you sign up for an annual subscription. Well, that's it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.